Awesome. Pleasure to welcome to the podcast Vermont goalie Ryan Daly. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always like to start these podcasts by hearing the story of when you first jumped into goal. Do you remember that?
I do, yes. It was the summer going into fourth grade, I believe. My local club team was called the Junior Jacks. We needed a goalie for a Fort Devens tournament. I'm sure a lot of New England guys know that tournament. So we needed a goalie for that, and I thought I'd hop in. So started off with that.
Beauty. Junior Jacks. Are they still around? Shout out Junior Jacks, huh?
Not anymore. No, it's the
Oh man.
Boston Kings lacrosse club now.
Okay, they rebranded.
They rebranded. Yes.
I was gonna say maybe after they lost you as their goalie, like the entire club just collapsed, you know? So they needed a goalie, and you decided to step up. I mean, what was it about like the position? Do you think that, or your personality that made you make that decision?
I think a little bit spontaneous. Someone needed to step in the moment, and I wanted to try it out. I think I played it a couple times and a couple like youth clinics and whatnot, practices, but never before in a game. So figured I'd jump up, and glad I made the decision to.
Yeah. Did you like it right away? I mean, I know sometimes the kids jump in and you get tagged by a couple balls, and you're like, oh
hmm
man. Well, how was it for you?
I liked it right away. It was yeah, that first tournament we played, I think we played like 91, and we got absolutely shelled. It was like an 18 goal game and a couple balls off the shins, but I liked it right away and I stuck with it, and yeah, kept doing that.
I like it. I like it. So you liked it right away, stuck with it, and then how'd you go about learning how to make saves? Did you get some coaches then, some clinics, or how'd you do
I
that?
did, yeah. So my club coach for the Junior Jacks was Bill Day. I'm sure, I think you had
Yeah.
him on the podcast before.
Yeah,
Legendary UNC
Coach
goalie.
BD, let's go.
Yes, yes, sir, BD.
Yeah.
So he helped coach me all throughout my youth with the team, and then doing private lessons with them all throughout middle school, high school. So
Yeah.
he really helped me get the first stepping stones down.
What were those first stepping stones? What did some of your early training sessions look like?
Uh, very, very fundamentals. I remember you had a weighted shaft, and we would use that and just punch and like a boxing glove and punch the balls away and steps, and yeah, very, very fundamental stuff.
Yeah. I like that weighted shaft drill. And a lot of people ask me like, how do I get my hands quicker, or how do I get like a lot of a more explosion? And I think anytime you can add like resistance, whether it be like with that weighted shaft, or I've seen some
hmm
like bands, putting some bands on and
Yep,
doing your movements, and then guess what? When you take it off, like you're way more explosive, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
totally.
you
That's
still.
something I still do to this day.
That's what I
Is
was gonna
the
ask.
banded
Yeah,
movements. Yeah,
yeah,
I think that helps a lot. So
yeah. What kind of things do you do with those bands at Vermont?
so I'll put it. I'm trying to think. I'll go like around my back, so it's on both hands, and kind of hold it up in a stance, like I'm holding a stick, obviously without a stick, and just kind of work on my steps while I'm punching, driving with that top hand,
Yeah,
and I think it helps with hand speed.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I like to
Mhm.
do one too, where like I've got the band behind, attached to the goalie's waist, and I'm behind them,
Yep.
kind of holding the band, and they're just sort of walking the line, right? That
Right.
classic lacrosse goalie drill, and
Yep.
that one's a workout. Like I've done that one quite a bit, back in my prime, but I
Yeah.
still do it a little bit now. But it's a workout.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Good drill. All right, Coach Bill Day. Yeah, man, he was on podcast. I'll have to go back and check, but like I'm gonna say like definitely before 100, and this is gonna be like 280 something. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
And what a great goalie. Did you watch him play professionally?
I didn't watch him play, no, but I've heard the stories, and obviously great dude and even better goalie, and just yeah, good guy to learn from.
Yeah, I think he was on the Boston Cannons back in the
That's
MLL
right.
days.
I believe he was a coach too for them for a little bit.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. He was. Yeah. So awesome. What about some like early bad habits, or like some early
Hmm.
challenges that you ran into as a youth goalie?
I think I saw it on the sheet, like the being scared of the ball, and that's the classic first question, but a little bit of that, and just kind of like the ducking with it. So like
Yeah.
not necessarily being totally scared of the ball where like you're getting out of the way of the shot or anything, but kind of that first hand movement down, head movement down, and then that throwing everything away with that. That was kind of the first habit I ran into, bad habit.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, a lot of college kids do that. A lot, I mean, some pros do it. Like it's just such a, like
Right.
a, it's such a innate thing that
Hmm.
happens, when this 100-mile-an-hour rubber bullet comes at you, like your first movement is down.
Exactly.
How do we break that movement? If a young goalie's got that habit, what's your tips for them to get out of it?
I think the main thing I can say is even it's something I started doing more recently once I kind of got into college is just being more relaxed in my stance, kind of putting my hands like right above that chin level, nose to chin area. My stance, my legs just kind of nice and relaxed. And once you see that ball, you're not in that tight up stance where you're moving when you see that shot. You see the shot and it's right to the ball and it's no like false movements.
Yeah. Yeah, tension is really the enemy of everything that we want to do as lacrosse goalies. So
Hmm.
that's a good tip, right? Just being relaxed in that stance. Now, do you I forget, do you do that little like pre-shot hop, I call it, like just kind of resetting the weight or no?
I do a little bit. I'm trying to get out of that. But I do that a little bit. Kind of that like, especially if they're moving it around the top of the box, whatever. Kind of
Yeah,
that pre-shot, that step to hop, kind of, and then right
right,
into the sink into the stance.
right. Now, why are you trying to get out of it?
I don't know. I think it's been better just to be a little bit more relaxed and always in that stance, moving across the arc.
Yeah.
I've always been taught that, and that's what I teach my goalies when I coach them to is just to stay in that ready stance always.
No, I like it. I like the hop a lot. I'm a huge
Okay.
advocate. I think that it gets you in like a nice athletic ready position, but it takes
I
practice. I
don't
mean,
disagree with that. Yeah,
yeah, it
definitely
takes
does take
practice.
practice.
The reason being, I grew up playing like tennis and baseball infield,
Hmm.
and like when you return serves in tennis, like that is like that's the move
Right.
that you do,
That
and then
load up.
yeah, and same thing as like a baseball infielder, like right before the pitch crosses the plate, like you do this little hop to like get
Hmm.
ready for a line drive and kind of react either way. And so I see a lot of similarities there. The only difference being with lacrosse, it's a little trickier. Like you can throw fakes, so it's a little trickier. The shot might not come out when you think it's going to come out. Like a
Right.
serve's coming out, a hit is going to come out. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It's a technique, and I know not every goalie does it, but as I've said a lot of times, and I'm sure you'll agree, there's more than one way to play goalie.
Totally.
Yeah. Um, what would you say is your favorite thing about being the goalie?
I think just being the leader on the field. I think it's a big role, and it's a lot of people see it, and you're like, why would you want to get scored on, and why would you want to have that pressure on you? But I think it's a great thing. I think having that pressure and being in those situations and being the leader on the field, you really get to lead the team out there, which is great.
Yeah, I like that aspect too. A lot of some goalies don't like because we have the spotlight on us, right? And
Hmm.
so, and that's cool. I think you got to embrace that.
Totally.
Yeah, and so I don't think I mentioned it, but you're a sophomore, right?
Correct. I'm a
Yeah,
sophomore.
yeah. And so not, the oldest guy out there. So how do you be the leader without having that seniority age-wise?
Hmm. Um, I think it's a lot about playing your game and being consistent with your game, and you kind of earn the respect that way. Obviously, you
Mhm.
want to be a good communicator, a good leader on the field, a good clearer, all that, the tangibles to get the defense going. But if you're consistent and you prove that you're consistent, saving the ball, clearing the ball, whatnot, then you earn the respect of the coaches, you earn the respect of the team. So I think getting it that way is really big.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be a leader, even when you're like at whatever age, you got to have some competency
Right.
in what you're doing, right? It's very hard. I don't know of many like leaders who are just really effective leaders and they like stink at what they do. Just like
Exactly. Yeah.
lacrosse wise or business wise or like whatever.
Right.
You got to have some competency there. But I think even just them, the work that you put in to get that competency builds up that trust, like you said. And a
Totally.
lot, a lot of that is that trust. So now we trust Ryan. When he says something, we're gonna listen because I know like, he's got his heart in the right place and works his butt off. So I think
Mhm.
that's a good tip for young goalies.
Yep.
Are you a captain or no?
I'm not a captain now.
Okay, yeah, but that's cool. I mean, that's cool that you don't have that designated C on the chest, but yet, still as a goalie, we are leaders, whether or not we're designated
Exactly.
captains or not, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Um, awesome. Least favorite part about being a goalie then, flip it around.
I don't know if I have a least favorite part. I'll be honest. Maybe getting hit with the ball and the body's a little tough. day
Yeah.
after is sore, but I don't know. It's a fun position, and I think it's the best position on the field. So I think it's great to be out there. And I don't know if I have a least favorite thing really.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah,
I've seen some Vermont games and there's like, 6 feet of snow like pushed off to the
yeah.
sideline. And I don't
I'm
really
looking at the field right now and out
it's
my
got a bunch of
window, and
snow.
it's exactly huge banks of snow out there.
And I'm from California. I don't have much experience playing in the snow, but it's got to have this whole other like vibe when you get tagged in the shin in that type of weather. Am I right?
It's definitely cold. Yeah, definitely stings a little bit.
All right. What tips do you have for goalies for playing in the snow?
Playing in the snow. I'd say have fun with it. I don't know. It's like any other game really is just have fun with the position, and you're out there with your friends who get to play the game of lacrosse. So
Yeah.
I don't know if snow's any different. I think it's consistency and being consistent, and that'll carry through.
Yeah. I mean, that's advice for non-snow games as well.
Yeah,
Create the same. What about like, but obviously you got to go with sweats and then
right.
like, what do you got under, you got like thermal underneath or like,
Yeah,
how do we stay warm?
I always go like if it's a practice day, it's the long underwear, the thermal, the put the neck warmer on sometimes if it's really windy out there.
Hmm.
Hoodie, sweatpants, all that.
Yeah. Do you ever throw like the ski hand warmers or ski foot
Yeah,
warmers in there?
I haven't done the warmers. No, I don't know if I could do that on the hands. It's a little too tight with the glove, but
Yeah, yeah.
I have a pair of like ski glove liners that I put on sometimes.
Oh, nice.
Thin ski gloves. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then yeah, what else was I going to ask about snow games? What about like, because I guess if it's a snow game, you can actually change the color of the ball, right? But have you ever done that, or do you guys always play with white balls in that white snow?
We do a lot of orange balls up here
Yeah,
just because of, like you said, the snowbank. So it's obviously tough to see that. So I
right.
think the Manhattan game, the one that you made the edit for, we use orange balls in that one, and we use it in practice a lot too.
Oh, wow. So here I am making these, and I actually wait. Did I make that one? I don't think I made that one. That's why I feel better. I feel better about that one.
Okay.
One of my teammates did. So,
All right.
I didn't even notice.
Easy to
Uh,
miss. Yeah.
yeah, right. I have to go back and check that out. Awesome. I was going to ask about some of the goalies that you sort of looked up to when you were learning this position. Did you watch a lot of college lacrosse? Some people don't, some people do. So I'm
Yeah,
curious.
I definitely tried to, especially growing up in the era that I did, like that 2014, 2016, like the Thompsons and all that.
Hmm.
Lacrosse was so fun to watch on ESPN. So,
Yeah.
I loved watching the Denver goalies back in the day, though. The lefty goalies, Alex Reddy, Ryan LaPlante.
Oh
So I
yeah.
definitely looked up to those guys a lot.
Nice. Now those guys were really wide base. When I think about those guys, like the thing that comes to mind is like wide base, lateral
Mhm.
steps, and like they were like some of the first ones I saw do that. Did you incorporate that immediately into your game?
Yeah, I've definitely played a little bit of a wider stance. Um, yeah, definitely a bit of a wider stance, and then stepping kind of that lateral line of the body.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it was watching them and putting that into my game. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ryan LaPlante, national champion,
Yes, sir. That's right.
and and episode number one of the
Oh,
podcast, the
really?
very first,
That's great.
we kicked it off with Ryan LaPlante.
That's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
funny because I had this idea for the podcast for a long time, mostly because I kept DMing goalies and like no one would respond, and I just wanted to like talk about goalie. And so now I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, I have a podcast. Could you?
There you go.
And then they would like
Yeah.
come on. So then anyway, I did a save edit with LaPlante, and he's like, hey, could you send me the video? I want to use it for something. And I'm like, sure, let's do the podcast. And he's like, yeah, I'm in.
Sweet.
Anyway,
That's awesome.
great dude. He helped me get it kicked off. What do you think? Do you think like being a lefty comes with its advantages as a goalie? Because I think obviously shooters are a lot more used to shooting on right-handed goalies, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. Yeah. I think just like, I mean, obviously, I don't have the mind of a shooter, so it's a little different, but um, it definitely helps with playing angles, I think sometimes. And I'm a big fan of that kind of pivoting my feet, pivoting my hips and just playing my angles. And if my left hand can, have an advantage in that, then I'd like to think it does. But especially when you get to this level though, like the college level, it's shooters are so skilled that righty lefty, it doesn't really matter for a lot of guys, but
Yeah.
at some levels, definitely, yeah,
Yeah, I would think more like once you get to college, people probably have a lefty on their roster.
exactly, yeah,
And so like they've been shooting on a lefty all week to kind of prep to play Ryan Daly in the Catamounts. But like, yeah, I mean, high school, maybe not, right? And
right,
I tend to think shooters are like creatures of habit, where like, I know if I
totally,
dodge down this alley, I'm going to shoot it low and away. And it doesn't even
hmm
matter if that's the goalie's stick side or that's the goalie's off stick side. So yeah, I think there is some advantage there.
definitely,
Um, yeah, and lefties are a little bit weird. So like we got now, like you're the goalie, you're a little bit weird, and now you got this little added element.
exactly, the
Embrace
double,
it.
yeah.
Double weird, right? Embrace that. Awesome. What about your game right now? What would you say is like something that you're really working on?
Right now, I think stepping with the line of the body. I know I mentioned that earlier, but my goalie coach, Nick Fisher at school up here, he's a big proponent of that, and I think it's something that's helped me a lot. It's just like stepping lateral while I'm facing up, while I'm dead center in the cage. But when I'm playing my angles, it's just stepping straight with my hip, excuse me, straight with my hip, and then cutting off the angle that way. I think is a great way to make a save.
Yeah. When you like when you step laterally, would you say that like your foot kind of opens up and your hip opens up slightly, or are you trying to keep it like totally closed and move laterally?
I'd say my foot opens up definitely a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of turn and open it up a little bit and then step lateral like that.
Yeah, I think yeah, I've heard a goalie coach talk to like to say not to do that, to not kind of open that hip. But I think that's like
Yeah,
more I think that's more athletic. I think like you can keep your chest squared to the ball and still like
right.
open up your hip and get over there. And I think that one, it gives you more surface area of the foot and the leg, and then I think it's more athletic. You move quicker.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. We're in agreement. We're in agreement.
Yeah.
Talk more about that angles thing because I think young goalies might not understand exactly kind of what you meant. So a lot of times, when the ball's moving around, or if there's a
Mhm.
sweep, I see a lot of young goalies like, literally step, step, step and move with them. And I think kind of what you were saying is like there's certain times where like I don't even move my feet really. I just kind of square up my hips. So talk to me
Right.
more about that if you could.
So the way I like to look at it is like if a shooter is coming, top center, he's dodging, he's coming down the alley, right? So you're gonna make that first step and kind of get more towards the post, and your back foot. So let's say he goes to the right side, my left foot is gonna be kind of the same as I first stepped, but then as he keeps moving down, that's when I kind of like make the decision like, am I gonna move it up? Am I gonna move it down? And I like to think about it as like if I was the shooter and I'm shooting, right? I want to the way I want to see a goalie if I'm the shooter is like his back foot is totally opened up because then you have that whole cage
Hmm.
versus if like you're almost like a wall on that side of the pipe right there and
Hmm.
you can kind of keep pivoting that foot the more he moves instead of wasting a full step if that makes sense.
I think I'm following. Yeah. When do you decide to pivot? Because I've heard some people say that, well, I trail them by a half a step. Some people say,
Mhm.
actually, I talked to another goalie and he's like, I actually like to beat them to the spot. So he kind of like, as they're sweeping, he'll sort of like see where they might shoot and just kind of like, get set on that spot just a step ahead. So I'm curious how you
Yeah,
handle those sweeps.
I think both are great options and me personally I was always taught to do that kind of like half step behind them
Right.
where like they kind of step over that front foot and their back foot, like right when they pass my front foot, that's kind of when I make that step. And then I'll play that pivot angle once they get lower to GLE.
Yeah, I think that's a really good option for goalies who tend to get to the pipe like way too soon and leave that
Hmm.
backside open because that's exactly where they want to shoot when they're sweeping,
Right.
right? They pull it across their body. They want to shoot
Exactly.
to that backside. And so for those goalies who find themselves constantly getting beat there, like trailing them a half step will keep you in good position.
Hmm.
All right. Um, so no Nick Washuta on the list of lacrosse goalies that you watched and learned from, huh?
I definitely watched him a bit too.
Okay.
Yeah, he was especially coming to UVM right when I committed. He was definitely someone to look up to too. Great goalie in his own right.
Yeah, I was gonna say because he's the only other Vermont goalie that I've had, a lefty.
That's right. He's a lefty. Yeah,
Yeah, pro. And he's a great dude. He's a great dude. I don't know if
Mhm.
you had a chance to speak with him.
I haven't yet, no, but I've heard good
Okay.
things.
Yeah, he's awesome, dude. Cool. What do you what are like I guess when you're training goalies yourself, you mentioned being a coach of goalies. Like what are a couple drills that you really like to do?
Yeah. Some drills I like to do is I keep it simple usually. A lot of tennis ball work. I do a lot of up the hash too. I think that's a very
Oh,
important thing for goalies, and I think once you can master the up the hash, it's like it's a huge piece to a lot of game. Um, I do another one too where the goalie will be outside the net and his top foot is kind of like right above the pipe, maybe a little bit beneath it, and I'll be up top, aim for the far post, and just kind of big step punch out.
yep.
I think that's a great one for youth goalies to work on like their punch and their step at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I call that one pipe to pipe drill. And
Right.
it's funny because I sponsored a bunch of college goalies this year, and like part of it was they filmed some drills and sent me the videos, and I didn't tell them like
Mhm.
what drills to do, right? You just film some drills that you like, and like 80% of them had that drill in there, the pipe to pipe drill, and I was like, wow, all right,
Yeah, it's a popular one.
we're onto something here. Like
Yeah.
this is if every top level goalie is doing this drill, then ding, like
Right. That's a
maybe the
good
you
thing.
that's a good thing. Maybe the you should do it as well. Talk to me about up the hash shots. What are some things to keep in mind? What are some tips for young goalies on how to make more saves on those type of shots?
Yeah, I think the main thing I learned from a coach was just kind of stay patient on that and don't make any like super big movements.
Mm.
Really just stay like shooter goes up. You're obviously not going to take a step because you're already on. That's where you can use the pivot foot. So pivot, kind of get that angle right, and just kind of sit there and wait for the shot and read and react.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. That's a great tip. I would say a lot of times up the hash shots are like position body saves, right? Because
Right.
they're just running like sort of away from the goal and they turn around and shoot. It's not like they're
Hmm.
analyzing where the goalie is. And so a lot of times you just make that save by being in the right position, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Do you ever do you ever like in that specific scenario, do you ever take a step out and like kind of challenge the shooter, get a little bit closer?
I have done that a few times. I'm not a huge fan of it. I just like to play, stay back and cover the goal like that. But I think it is like for some guys, if it works well for them, then definitely do that. I've seen it work well for plenty of goalies. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's not for everybody, but like I said, I think that a lot of times, like I said, those shooters are just shooting at the goal and they don't know where they're shooting. And so like
right,
if I see their back, right, and now they're running up and then they turn around to shoot and like I'm a step closer than where I was before, it can be like almost surprising and then they just plunk me in the chest or something like that.
totally,
Yeah.
yeah.
But there's a time and place for it.
Mhm.
Um, very cool. How's the New England lacrosse scene, by the way?
It's pretty good. It's a good
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Definitely a tight community, especially at the goalie scene. And yeah, a lot of good players coming out of New England these days, especially Massachusetts,
Yeah.
where I'm from. Yeah,
The what's the big club team there? The Fighting Clams. They're going strong.
right.
I,
Yeah,
I know I've
Fighting
talked
Clams.
I know I've talked to a bunch of goalies who are ex Fighting Clams.
Yeah,
That's awesome. And then they got the Cannons now, obviously. So
that's right.
I imagine it's kind of a big growing lacrosse scene.
Yeah, especially when the Cannons were there back in the day, and they used to
True.
play at Harvard Stadium back in the Coliseum.
Oh, nice.
That was pretty good. So I used to go to
Yeah,
those games a lot.
cool. Talk to me about your recruiting process, if we could. I mean, when did you first decide, to get serious and about playing Division I lacrosse? And talk to me about Vermont.
Yeah, I think it was. Let's see. I mean, obviously it's September 1st, so that summer going into junior year, but kind of that summer going into sophomore year for me. That was when I was talking with my club coaches and whatnot about taking the next step and going to good tournaments, going to good showcases, all that. And yeah, that next summer, we did some really good tournaments with my club team, and it all worked out. So
Yeah. What did you do showcases too?
I did. Yeah, I did a couple.
Okay. How does that work, or what tips do you have there? Did you already have like Vermont on your radar, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna do a Vermont showcase, or was it no, just like a showcase for a bunch of college coaches in attendance?
Yeah, so I never did any like individual prospect days. Like I never did like a Vermont prospect day or anything.
Got it.
Um, I think the best bang for your buck, the best thing you can do as a young goalie is go to a showcase with multiple coaches and get your exposure there. Because then,
Yeah,
you know, it's instead of going to one school's prospect day, you get to get a bunch of coaches in front of you.
yeah. And you can, I think you can check to see what schools are going to be there, right?
Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, it's on
Okay.
Instagram these days, I think.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, and so you went to a couple of those, and did you play well? I guess you did.
Yeah, I like to think I did, but yeah, hopefully I played well, and I'm yeah very happy to land in the spot that I'm in now. So it worked out
Yeah,
well.
what sometimes I imagine in my head, like, because I never went to those showcase events, but I imagine in my head, like, if someone, a goalie can really get worked up or get really nervous, like, especially if they
Mhm.
don't have many opportunities and they're like, all right, this is my opportunity. What tips would you throw out there in that scenario?
Yeah, I can say, I mean, I've been in that spot too. Like, if you play, you know, not a great game in a showcase, and you're all right, this is my one game, I need to make it count. But um, yeah, I mean, I think just like I said before, that consistency piece and just going into every game the exact same and you know, always having the mentality like I'm gonna make the save. You know, you don't make the save, I'm gonna
Yeah,
make the next one and
yeah,
just keep that
yeah,
mentality going.
yeah. That kind of goes into the mental game. Do you guys have like a sports psychologist that you work with at Vermont or no?
I think we do have one. I haven't worked with them.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm almost certain we do.
well, you should.
Yeah, it is a big piece of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think about mental game and kind of some things that you do to be mentally tough, what comes to mind for you?
I think just like being in a good state of mind, going into games, going into practices, and you know, if you like, I always say like if you're gonna be happy going into games, you're gonna play your best. I mean,
Mm,
I always look at the games I played the best, and I'm always like good state of mind, and I'm you know excited to be there, happy to be there. I'm playing lacrosse with my friends, so.
yeah. Is there something specific that you do to get in that good state of mind?
Um, I don't think so. I think it's just pregame ritual. You know,
Yeah.
listen to the music I want to listen to, and
Right.
you know, do my stretches and do my wall ball, and yeah, nothing too particular.
Yeah, just a little bit of gratitude for like, man, this is awesome, right? Like,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Be grateful about where you are, and you get to play the game. So
Yeah, I mean that is like a really under talked about point that you just mentioned about the mental game. It's just like being in a great state, being happy and like being in a great positive state is going to
totally,
help your mental game tremendously, right?
completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything you can do, and a lot of times that's just like we said, being grateful that your sun's shining and I'm out here with my friends playing this beautiful
Exactly.
game.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, love it. Love it, love it. Yeah, and work with that sports psychologist and let me know what he says. All right.
We'll do. Yes, sir. We'll do.
Cool. We're filming. Yeah, I guess filming, recording this in early March. Season's underway. How do you break down the season for me so far, if you could?
Yeah. So we opened up against Cuse. I was originally the backup going into that game actually, and our goalie went down within the first, I think it was the first 3 minutes. So I checked into that game. We played a good game and ended up losing 13-5. It was a tough one, but bounced back the next week. Had Manhattan at home, which is great. So winning against Manhattan, and then week after, big win against Utah,
Let's go. Yeah.
um, which was a home game, but our field was in pretty tough conditions. So we played at a dome in New Hampshire, a bubble, a little indoor bubble.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we good win against that team, really good gritty team, and then we played Dartmouth just last week, or excuse me, just on Friday. Tough loss to them, but you know, bouncing back, and we got UMass this week, so looking forward to that.
Let's go.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. I actually didn't know that you started as the backup. That's cool. So then, I mean, I guess talk to me then about that backup mentality, right? Because
Yeah,
as it goes to show, like 3 minutes into the game, like you're the starter, and it can happen like that.
totally. Yeah.
How do you approach that role?
I think just always preparing like you are, you know. what happens if I do get in the game? How am I gonna show that I can be the starter? And our coach always says it like your number gets called, are you gonna step up to the plate? Are you gonna, do what needs to be done? So I think just always preparing and always going into practice, like, this could be the week where I get the call. So
Yeah. Yeah, and always just being like mentally ready because I think that
exactly.
sometimes like as the backup, you're like yeah, you're there and you warm up, but like you're sort of like checked out where like oh, I'm not gonna play. So
Mhm.
and
Yeah, just
then
being
when
mentally prepped
yeah,
for that.
your number gets called and then it's like, well, I didn't get a warm up or I didn't you start making excuses and
Exactly. Yeah.
but yeah, just kind of being mentally in that game, and I think that's easier. Obviously at the college level with you're a young man, you're an adult.
Right.
But as a kid, it's the same deal.
Totally.
Very cool. And then any games in the coming up that you got circled that are going to be like you're really looking forward to that game, or just each take it one game at a time.
I think one game at a time and, just playing our game and then prepping and looking forward to the next week. And, America East Conference play is always big for us. So I think that's coming
Yeah,
up I think next week. I think after UMass, we start with, I want to say UMBC maybe at UMBC.
yeah,
So that's always, America East is it's always a tough game. It's anyone can win. So always looking
Lo-
forward to that.
love it. What goes into a week of prep for the game? So you mentioned you got UMass next Saturday. I mean
Mhm.
you don't have to give away all the secrets, all the specifics, but like at a very high level, like how do you prep for that game?
Yeah, I mean it's you do your practice, you do your lift, whatever every day leading up into that, your film with your coaches. And I think the film is a big aspect to that. And then also getting extra work. I think there's a fine line of like, doing too much to where you're over not I don't want to say over preparing yourself, but you're almost hurting yourself in the sense where like you're doing too much extra work on top of already having a tough practice schedule. But
Hmm.
you want to still be getting that extra work in and doing that every day to mentally prepare and physically prepare to get ready for every game.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a lot of different things that you can do to get better outside of shots too. I mean, you've got
Right.
like, non-shot work like wall ball or working on your clearing game or
Mhm.
watching video or like some agility stuff or like physical stuff. But yeah, I know what you're saying about. I think a lot of young goalies are just like, shots, 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 and then you don't want to burn yourself out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the clip of Blaze talking with like a PLL roundtable, like interview thing, but he was like, yeah, like at this point of my career, like I don't get any shots.
I did see that. Yeah, I did see
And I
that.
was like, no, don't say
Yeah,
that. But
still got to get some shots.
yeah, you have to understand to get to that point, like he's seen
Exactly.
5 million shots. So,
Exactly. He
if there's a
prepped hard
young,
to get there.
exactly, if there's a young goalie watching that, like once you've seen 5 million shots, then I'm okay with you being like Blaze and taking 5 shots and calling it a day.
Right.
He's also a freak athlete.
Yeah. Very good player.
Yeah, love it, man. Cool. Awesome. And do you train with the Goalie Smith guys? Have you trained with the Goalie Smith guys in the past?
Yeah, I've been training with them for. I mean, obviously, I'm from Massachusetts, and they're a Baltimore-based group, but
Yeah.
they used to come up to Massachusetts once in the fall and once in the spring, I believe, in high school. So I started training with them, I think sophomore year of high school, and they helped me immensely with the recruiting process and all that.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, great guys, and they really know what they're talking about, which is great.
Of course. And what do you think you learned from working out with them, or was just a matter of getting those high quality, high energy reps?
I think, yeah, getting those reps are obviously great, and but being surrounded by that community too, like you're with a goalie from almost every Division 1 program, a lot of
Right.
D3s, a lot of D2s, so you're competing with them at the top level, which is great, and you're learning from each other, sharing ideas about what works best. So I think that's
Yeah.
what really is the biggest thing.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. What do you remember any ideas of sharing ideas of what works best?
I don't. I think that's where I got the angle thing from, though, like the
Yeah,
pivoting.
okay. Yeah.
I think that's where I first heard it.
Yeah, yeah.
So taking that into my own game.
Yeah, yeah. I just love chatting with goalies too, but yeah, I mean, when you're surrounded by so many elite goalies, and a lot of times like you could chat about it, but you could also just watch like, oh
Right.
man, look how Will Mark does that, or look how so and so does that, and it's just yeah, I mean you can learn that way by watching them.
Totally.
I love it. Awesome. Well, cool, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You feel like we hit everything, we covered everything, or do we miss any good stories I forgot to ask you about?
I think we covered it all.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good luck in the rest of the season. We'll definitely be watching. And if you had to leave the goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would that be?
Just keep playing the position. Keep getting shots and keep saving the ball and keep having fun with it.
Love it. I know what I forgot to ask you. The stick. Are you in Eclipse 3, man?
Oh, yeah. I use Eclipse 3. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
You string
I
them up
switched over
yourself?
last year. I don't. Another goalie on our team actually strings, and it's nice having another goalie who strings, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Hey, string me up those wands. Cool. Well, we can
Exactly.
end on that one right there. Ryan, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Take care.